I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we send this to the AG's office with the request that there's a fine issued.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to bind this over to the Attorney General with consideration of a fine for violation of 21-414A1. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
This concludes our business before you all. May we be excused.
You've made me excuse.
Why, thank you. Everybody have a good day.
Next case is Ms. Brumbaugh, in the January meeting, could you bring some evidence of the voter roll matches with the issue that it didn't match with Mr. Frazier's voter roll? Is it?
I'm going to have to talk to my client and probably provide a written response.
Okay, thank you. It's been heard. Next case, 2025-015, DeKalb County. Double voter, Georgia, North Carolina. Is Yvonne Green present? Complainant is North Carolina State Board of Elections. This is an allegation of double voting across state lines in the November 22 election. In this case, I have to disagree with the investigator's findings. The record showed that the respondent voted in Georgia absentee by mail ballot for the November general election and admitted that she mistakenly voted in both states due to an overlapping timeline moving from Georgia to North Carolina, stating it was an honest mistake and a failure to remember voting in person in North Carolina and absentee ballot in Georgia. That appears to be sufficient evidence to consider this a violation. There was some mention about the North Carolina elections were different than the Georgia elections. Well, that's true in general, but I pulled the election slate, and there was the same federal election. Granted, they were for different candidates because one was Georgia and one was North Carolina, but it was the Senate race was on both states' ballot. motion for this case?
Yeah, I make a motion that we send this case to the AG's office and that we notify the DOJ, as it does include multiple states. And also that we send this to the respective district attorneys. As well.
There's a motion and a second to refer this case to the appropriate district attorney and the attorney general and communicate this cross-state double voting with the Department of Justice. Is there any discussion? If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Next case is DeKalb County Observer Denied Right to Video Record, 2024-046. Respondents, DeKalb County?
Do you want me to go first or I go first? Okay.
Gotcha.
Once again, Brent here on behalf of DeKalb County. I think the investigator's report makes it clear as to what the deal is. There's no law, no election law, no rule of this board that requires videography to be allowed of the county ballots. Certainly, the members of the public are allowed to be there. It's allowed to be open to the public. They are allowed to come and watch as they want, but there's just no violation of state election law or the rules of this board by denying someone the right to video record. In fact, as the law stands today, the photography rule that had been enjoined by Judge Boulay in district court, that injunction is no longer in place because the case has been dismissed. And in that particular injunction, it prohibited the state from enforcing the rule, it didn't prohibit counties from enforcing the rule. I've got a copy of it, I've got the order pulled up right here. But as it stands, we stand here today, that injunction is not even in place anymore because the case has been dismissed. So we don't think there's been any violation of the law, and we would ask that this case be dismissed.
Thank you. And Mr. Valvona, the complainant is here. Would you?
Sure.
Do you wish to speak?
Yes, Johnson, can I get his name real quick?
Something Harris.
Sorry, my name is Brent, B-R-E-T, last name is Herrin, H-E-R-R-I-N. Thank you. I didn't realize we switched order, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's.
Have more games for you.
Maybe I'll be in frame, maybe I won't.
Hi. I'd like to thank the SEB for granting me continuances on this. I've been working on this for about a little over 3.5 years, and I'm very amused by this dismissal. There's 4 parts to this case. The first part is Photo Rule 2, which bans photos and voted ballots. 2 is a federal court order which bans enforcement of Photo Rule 2, a ban on a ban. 3 is SOS bald-faced lying about this federal court order. And 4 is DeKalb County knowingly, willingly, and brazenly violating this court order, federal court order, okay? So they try to make it sound real complicated. This is OCGA 21-2-5682. It's got 4 parts. The intro that says the following things are going to be illegal. Paragraph 1 that says you can't take a picture of a voting screen while someone's voting, which is totally unnecessary because it's already covered by 21-2-413E, and you've probably seen the signs of it at your polling location because it's in the law to do it, to post them. So then there's the paragraph 2, which bans photos and recordings of a voted ballot, ever. This is what we're talking about. That's Photo Rule 2, a ban of that, okay? So, and then the last part of it, it says, doing these things will be a misdemeanor. All right, so yes, 5 blocks away from us at the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia, Judge J.B. Boulay had a ruling, okay? And this ruling said a lot of things, but let's read it to you, okay? He says that having reviewed and fully considered the papers and evidence submitted in connection with plaintiff's motion for preliminary injunction, which is a legal way of saying the big pause button for whatever you're proposing, the court grants the motion with respect to photography rule 2 only. It's only about photo rule 2, all right? State defendants are hereby enjoined from enforcing photography rule 2 until further order of the court. And then he knows this is a big deal. He says the court recognizes that a preliminary injunction is an extraordinary remedy that should be granted sparingly, especially when it enjoins enforcement of a statute, but finds it appropriate here given the constitutional rights at stake. Okay? So this comes out on a Friday. Mark Nisi has the first article about it. Kate over at AP, the following Monday, has an article about it. They don't seem to find it very difficult to understand what this federal court order is. You know, AJC, judge strikes down part of Georgia voting law that banned photography. AP, judge blocks photography ban in Georgia's new election law. SOS went a different way. They say Integrity Act, you know, Elections Integrity Act passes another test in court. Judge Boulay disagreed with people saying it was Jim Crow 2.0. Doesn't even mention the federal court order in the title. But he does mention it, SOS mentions it once. It's in the penultimate paragraph, it's the last sentence, and it says, Judge Boulay did not find the law's ban on so-called ballot selfies outside the polling place was not narrowly drafted enough and enjoined that provision of the law. Okay. You remember those 6 words? This is what he enjoined. It doesn't have F all to do with ballot selfies, okay? There is so much wrong with that sentence. I could spend all day telling you about how many lies are, okay? The ballot selfies he's talking about was during the case, the state defendants brought in an Alabama statute about ballot selfies, where it's not illegal. He says, Photo Rule 2, this is what he says about it, his words, is not limited in any way. Its broad sweep prohibits any photography or recording of any voted ballot in public and non-public forums alike. The government must show that Photography Rule 2 is narrowly tailored to serve a compelling state interest. State defendants have neither argued that it is narrowly tailored to serve those interests, nor rebutted plaintiffs' assertion that this rule is a blanket prohibition on recording any voted ballot under any circumstance. And this is what he says about that Alabama. By comparison, the Alabama election statute, which state's defendants offer as an analogous regulation, reflects tailoring that is not evident here. He's arguing that it's too broad, which it is. It has no qualifier on it whatsoever. So cut to when DeKalb had to have a recount, right? So DeKalb needed to have a recount, and the day before, I was calling them up. I was sending emails. I was saying, hey, you know there's a federal court order that says you cannot ban the ban. You cannot stop us from taking pictures of these voted ballots because there's no reason for it. There's no voting taking place, so it's not tied to any voter. And there's no PII. There's no personal identifying information on it. It serves no purpose to keep people from taking pictures and video during this recount. And case in point, back in 2020, when Chatham County had the very, very first hand recount of this new system, guess who was there all day with 3 video cameras and recorded all day? This guy, okay? So I know it was in the rule. The only thing that changed was SB 202's photo rule, and it got shut down by a federal judge, okay? I sent that to both elections directors, Twyla, the former, and Keisha, the new one, still there, and 3 attorneys, okay? I sent it to Sean Garrett, I sent it to Irene B. Vanders L., and I hand-delivered it at the recount to the senior county attorney, who is Shelley Momo. And right next to me, waiting for this recount to start, was Mark Nisi, the AJC journalist. And what's he say to her? This is what he says to her. He says, we can record ballots. Momo, huh? Nisi, we can record ballots. Momo, what do you mean? Nisi, photograph of ballots is allowed. No. So I don't want you to zoom in on the ballots. Nisi says it's allowed. Eric, we talked about this. Eric Burton says, well, yeah, but the legal, I have to go with what are legal. Nisi, do you want me to show you the court order? Balbona, I have a printout of the order.
Mr. Balbona,
Yes?
we have the.
Okay, let me get to some new stuff for you, okay?
And we don't.
I'll get to some new stuff for you, just to keep it interesting.
Could you sum it up in a
Okay,
minute, please? 1 minute.
here's the summation for you, okay? They were told that there's a federal court order saying that they could not enforce it. They blatantly enforced it. The ban, they did it. And I don't give two fine about what happened in March of this year. You can't precog and say, oh, now it's not valid. When this happened, it was valid. It was a federal court order saying you cannot enforce this ban. And you guys did, and you knew it. I told you, Nisi told you, and the kicker, Irene Vanders, she's added to my email thread. She was a law clerk at the same court that Boulay worked at. She knew very well that you need to follow.
Mr. Balbona.
One last thing. I got a
One
couple
last
things.
thing.
That's real
Wrap it
quick.
up, please.
All right. Here's Gabe Sterling at the.
You can't let counties decide the law. You can't let lawsuits figure out what you're supposed to do on these things.
Okay, he's half right. And then you got him saying this.
But this is important. This is vital, and it's one of the things our office always does. We follow the law. This is federal law, and this is state law.
All evidence to the contrary in this instance. Last thing, okay? This is me talking to Keisha. 1 second, let me just get it to it. It's like 10 seconds.
It is Saturday, May 20th.
I can fast forward to it.
The 8th.
Of course. Long story short, it's right here. We're there, and she says, I defer to my attorney. Okay? I say, but they're not the ones who write the law, and I know the law. And she says, well, they interpret the law. And they were on the phone this morning with the Secretary of State's office together just to verify that information. Okay, so clearly, DeKalb County is guilty of violating a federal court order. SOS told them to violate that federal court order. What are you guys going to do? You're going to try to send it to the AG? So you're both clients of the AG, the SEB and the SOS. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no accountability for the Secretary of State telling lies to the counties. And that 295 case you just did for Fulton, 2022-295, you cited it as a 568.2 violation, which it is now, but it's also a 413E violation. There's no need for this. This right here is just so they can intimidate people. And I've had the Secretary of State make up full cloth, false felony accusations against me. Okay? And the only thing that saved my butt was being able to have a recording device of every second I was after the polls closed at that polling location. Okay? And you take that away, the guy with all the cameras, yeah, he's concerned about the
All
ban.
right, thank you, Mr. Rowan.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I'll answer
Any
anything.
questions?
I would like to get a perspective, just a perspective. So I am going to make a motion if we're ready for that.
Okay. Sure. Yes.
Yeah. I'll make a motion that we continue this case. I do want to get an opinion from the Attorney General's office because there's a lot of legalities and legal jargon going on here. So once I have that opinion, I have a better understanding on how to move forward.
Sounds great.
There's been a motion to continue this case and ask for an opinion of the Attorney General regarding recording as described in this case, 2024-046, and a second by Member Jeffries. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Next case is DeKalb County voter disenfranchisement issue 2025-021. I think this case missed being recommended as a dismissal. Go ahead, sorry. I'm sorry. Go.
Yes, so, yes, this is listed in the dismissal cases from this morning. So, and it's also listed here, so I don't know.
Not right.
So my understanding is based on what you dismissed this morning, this case has already been dismissed. And
Thank
it's
you.
no longer pending.
Memory of an elephant. Okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Thank you.
We're on the same page. Next case. Is next to the last case, DeKalb County SEB 2024-200, vote buying at Tucker Reed Library polling location. Respondent, is there someone from Decatur alum, Delta Sigma Theta sorority or DeKalb County Schools? Yes.
Yes, Madam Chair, Brian Sells on behalf of the Decatur Alumni Chapter.
I'm sorry, what was your last name?
Sells, S-E-L-L-S, and I have some exhibits. Yeah, it's blinking. Okay, I think I'm on there. You're right. I have some exhibits that I brought to go along with my presentation. If it's okay, I'd like to distribute those.
Thank you.
You may have some of all of these documents, but of course, since I wasn't provided with the file, no, and I'm going to refer to them as I go along. Again, Brian Sells for the Decatur Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We asked the board to dismiss the vote buying complaint for one simple reason here, and that's because neither the Decatur Alumni Chapter nor anyone acting on its behalf gave anything to anyone for the purpose of registering to vote, voting, or for voting for any particular candidate, and there's no evidence that they did. Delta Sigma Theta is a private, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization of college-educated women committed to public service, leadership development, and the advancement of the communities that they serve. They have more than 350,000 members and over 1,050 chartered chapters worldwide. The Decatur Alumni Chapter is one such chapter. Like many other such chapters, the Decatur Alumni Chapter regularly partners with schools, other nonprofits, community agencies, and civic organizations within its service area to support initiatives that align with its service mission. And for many years, the Decatur Alumni Chapter has partnered with the DeKalb County School District to support its civic education programs. And in 2024, that program was called #DCSD Rocks the Boat. And Exhibit A that I handed up consists of materials about this program from the school district's website and social media accounts. And as you'll see, #DCSD Rocks the Boat was a civic education program for students in grades K through 12, designed to encourage students to take an active role in their communities and to develop a lifelong habit of civic participation. In 2024, the Decatur Alumni Chapter was invited by leaders of #DCSD Rocks the Boat to support the program again as it had in the past. the chapter did. All of the chapter's activities were for the purpose of supporting the DeKalb County School District's civic education program, not any quid pro quo for the purpose of registering or voting. One thing that the Decatur Alumni Chapter did to support the school district's program was to recruit volunteers from among its members in the area to cheer on new voters at the polls. And that is apparently what led to the complaint that is now before you. On October 30th, 2024, volunteers from the chapter were present at the Tucker Reed Library polling place to cheer on students who had been bused to the polls from the Tucker High School and Lakeside High School as part of this civic education program. And while students were inside the polling place, an employee of the school district asked one of the volunteers from Delta Sigma Theta to take a box onto the two buses. And Exhibit B that I handed up is an affidavit from that volunteer who also spoke with the investigator on this case. Her name is Ms. Cheryl Hawkins. And as you'll see, Ms. Hawkins testifies that she simply did what she was asked to do by the school district employee. She didn't know what was in the boxes, she didn't open the boxes, she didn't distribute anything to anyone. She merely took them onto the bus, gave them to the chaperones, and then left the bus. But I understand from my conversations with the investigator that a poll watcher who initiated the complaint photographed this member of Delta Sigma Theta taking the boxes onto the bus and then assumed that this member distributed materials to the students. But she did not. As best I can tell from the summary of investigation, nobody saw anybody distribute anything to anyone at the Tucker Reed Library. For that reason, we respectfully request that we dismiss this case. There's insufficient evidence of any violation here. And I appreciate
Other questions? Thank you, sir.
Did you ever find out what was in the box?
In the summary of the investigation, it suggests that there were keychains in the boxes, but that's not, that wasn't, nobody saw anybody distribute keychains at the Tucker Reed Library where the Delta volunteers were.
Were they distributed once you left the library?
Well, you'd have to ask the DeKalb County School District about the distribution.
Well, the DeKalb County distributed, not the organization.
Once the kids got back on the bus, which is where the boxes were, the Delta Sigma Theta didn't have any control over them.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we dismiss this case due to the lack of information.
We have a motion to dismiss, and a motion and a second to dismiss this case. SEB 2024-200 concerning Delta Sigma, or Delta Alumni Chapter in DeKalb County School System. Any further discussion? None, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Last case for today. Thank you so much. Very much. Mr. Sells.
Thank you. -005, Decatur County, voter registered to vote in Georgia, Washington, and Florida. Is there any Grace Hunter here? Or is there complainant Ian Camacho here?
Field 80, Grace Hunter, is ineligible to vote in Georgia during the November 8th, 2022 general election and subsequent December election runoff is due to her failure to re-register in Georgia after voting in Washington during the November 3rd, 2020 election. By doing so, she violated OCGA 21-2573, absentee voting by unqualified elector. Are there any discussion questions? Ready for a motion? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion we send this case to the Attorney General's office as well as notifying the respective district attorneys and the DOJ, considering there are multiple states involved.
There's a motion and second to refer this to the Attorney General, DA, and DOJ. I'd like to suggest reconsideration. That this person had registered and voted in Washington. This is not a double voting case. This is an ineligible voter case, similar to the other significant number of cases we've heard about and talked about today, where voters come back and find themselves on the voter rolls because they've never been removed, and they lie, that they tell them it's true that they're eligible, and they cheat a little bit by voting because they should have re-registered to vote. There is a violation. Would my colleague consider just a referral to the Attorney General?
I'll amend my motion to refer this case to the Attorney General.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to refer this case to the Attorney General. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. That concludes all the cases for today. Thank you very much for hanging in there with us, hanging out with us. We've got public comment. If anybody still wants to make public comment, please do. We'll get started.
If you signed up for public, or I've got the ones that if you want to speak, just come line up at the podium to my left. I'll call out the first four names first. George Balbona.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Okay. Richard Schrader, Sandra Bouchard, Don Hackney, and Victoria Cruz. If you would come and just, you'll have 2 minutes, and I'll set the timer, and you'll hear the beep go off. You're up, Mr. Richard. You step to the podium, Ricky.
Look what I got here. I want to thank this board for today's meeting. We've been coming here for years, been spinning our wheels, been putting up with bad things in our government. And Georgia's about the worst state around. What happened today is a breakthrough. And I'm just so grateful for Dr. Jane, I think a great Madam Chair, Janelle King, get that girl, and our Executive Director. There ain't nobody better than James Mills running this place. And Rick, we appreciate you with your votes, and you don't take none of our time talking. And we have hope. I have a word that I wrote up, and it just doesn't apply anymore because of our breakthrough. What we do have is what I left. I'm from Hall County, and we had the 300 ballots that were certified in the last month's meeting, and it wasn't certifiable. And you covered that today in some issues, especially Dr. Janelle King. If it's not certifiable, we have to deal with the legislators and change that law. We can't certify things that aren't certifiable. Also, we have legislators that have allowed this to happen, and These are Hall County with the 300, we got all kinds of orange and red cells on the spreadsheet. If upon the reexamination that the voting system can no longer safely or accurately be used by electors because of any problem concerning its ability to accurately record or tabulate votes, the approval shall be immediately revoked by the Secretary of State. I told Brad Reffenberger 2 times in some video that he needs to call me. I know my time's up.
It is.
I sure love you guys.
Your
What a day today was. I'll tell you that.
Thank you for your comment.
Oh, I can't wait to get back in January. I was going to read Psalm 1 from James Mills, but I don't have time. Thank you so much.
Ms. Sandra, you're next.
My name is Sandra Burkhart. I know my vote does not count. I've come to these SEB meetings for years, quietly praying for truth and justice. It is an honor and a privilege to be involved. The meeting today has been run so orderly and productively, in sharp contrast to all the previous meetings I have attended. Attending this meeting today has been a gift. I genuinely appreciate the efforts of the volunteers on this board and everyone connected with the SEB. My prayers are being answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Don Hackney?
I'm Don Hackney, a retired Atlanta attorney, and I will address several issues arising from the earlier Fulton voting challenge case, 2024-109. First, under sections 229 and 230, the sole remedy for dismissal of a voter challenge is to appeal to the Superior Court. The General Assembly has required that a losing party's case should be dealt with by a judge and a jury in a court of law, not by this board. As a result, the SEB lacks authority to take action against the county board based on a dismissed challenge. Second, the NVRA severely restricts voter challenges. The NVRA is not optional and it preempts our voter challenge laws because they substantially conflict with federal law. Third, there are several ways to become inactive. There's use it or lose it when you haven't voted for 5 years or where there's been some indication of a change of residence. It's critical to remember that this is simply evidence of a possible permanent move. A voter has the legal right to cure this status simply by showing up to vote with proper ID and signing the certificate on the poll pad confirming their residence. Of course, if they willfully sign a false statement, they've committed a crime. Fourth, you can't challenge inactive voters. The clock has already started to remove them. To require or allow a county to go through this process again would cause unnecessary staff and board disruption, as well as confusion to the voter as to what date is the correct removal date. Finally, with due respect to Mr. Ferguson, he's not correct about NCOA voter challenges. Section 6 of the NVRA specifically incorporates the two-step, two-election process in Section D for NCOA voter challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. And we've got next signed up is Victoria Cruz, and then we have Stephen Alshire, and Bill Henderson, and Tom Tower.
Hello, board. My name is Victoria Cruz. I'm a 28-year resident of Oconee County. I'm not paid to be here, my works are my own. I want to thank you for the efficient handling of all of these cases, which we realize have been held for a long time, and I do appreciate bringing them to light. In fact, there were 4 from my county. One of the complainants I know personally, and I'm glad that her case finally got heard. In 2021, SB 202 removed the Secretary of State as voting chair of the State Election Board to strengthen its checks and balances. In 2023, SB 189 made the SEB fully independent, giving giving it its own budget, executive director, and investigators. Instead of cooperating, the current Secretary of State has repeatedly undermined the SEB, withholding data from its investigators, delaying or denying funding and support, blocking case presentations at meetings, and publicly opposing the board's transparency and accuracy efforts. Open records requests reveal that many citizens' complaints have never been logged or investigated. This obstruction confirms why independence is essential when an elected official oversees their own elections and controls the investigative pipeline. Conflicts of interest are inevitable and irregularities can be buried. 10 states plus DC already have fully independent election boards. 9 others share authority with the SOS. A collaborative relationship in Georgia may be possible under a future Secretary of State, but none exists today. The General Assembly must now ensure that the SEB receives the funding and autonomy it needs to function effectively. Only then can Georgia restore voter confidence in lawful, transparent, and accurate elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect timing, right there, 1 second. Let's see, Stephen Alshire will sign up next. Is he?
Are these in line first?
You're in line.
I didn't sign up. So
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Can you pass this down, please? Thank you very much. I'm Steve Nelshire, County. You can tell that Victoria and I live in the same household. The recent discussions stemming from the Blue Ribbon Committee on Election Procedures have highlighted several contentious proposals regarding the future of this board, the State Election Board. Notably, one suggested for the complete dissolution of the board, while others advocate placing it entirely back in the Secretary of State's office. There are even calls to return explicitly control absolutely to the Secretary of State. Over the past 5 years, Georgia's election system, including the mechanisms for voting, counting ballots, and reporting results, have come under intense scrutiny. There's widespread public skepticism about honesty and fairness in elections. The suggestion to eliminate the only public forum dedicated to election transparency, this state election board, raises serious concerns about who holds the power to decide election outcomes. Georgia needs a state election board that operates free from political interference, including from constitutional officers. The metaphorical man in the high castle is in my mind all the time now, played by political insiders, including constitutional officers, and it is obvious and intolerable to ordinary citizens. We genuinely need an independent and accessible state election board. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Jason?
All right, my name is Jason Frazier. A couple things. First off, I think you've seen enough that double registrations are a major problem in the state of Georgia. I heard a comment behind me while I was sitting there, well, those should be turned in as a challenge whenever I gave you the 1,000 people that were double registered. Well, I quit turning those in for a challenge simply because if I turn in 1,000 today, I'll have to come back next month and turn in another 1,000. If they don't fix the process, what's the point? I hope this board will ensure that Fulton County and other counties, Fulton being the most egregious on duplicate registrations, implement a process. If somebody is already registered to vote, don't register them a second time and then hope it goes through the process and they can find them one of these days, even though it's Bob Smith once and Robert Smith with a T in the middle initial another time, typo on a birth year, it doesn't match, they don't come off. Bob moves to North Carolina, Robert's still there. You know, these duplicates are a major problem. The problem is they don't check when they add people. They don't check the full legal name, they don't check the birthday, they don't check. I don't know what they check, to be honest. I've seen addresses that are wrong, addresses that are in the wrong county. We have a major problem. We need that fixed. The other thing is registration challenges. That's a moving target, especially in Fulton County. It doesn't really matter what you give them. They'll say it's hearsay, even though what was given was the registration in Georgia, the NCOA, with their full name, year of birth, to the address they said they moved to in North Carolina. Here's the line on the North Carolina voter rolls that says they are registered there, their voting history, their North Carolina ID. They can substantiate that if they just go on the North Carolina website and download the voter roll for free. To say everything is hearsay is a moving target. We can never really have a challenge. I would like to ask this board to help ensure we have a standard process in all 159 counties on what can be submitted. That's not hearsay, that's not, oh, it's a list, oh, it's a spreadsheet, we can't do that, oh, we can't take your voter roll because that's from another state, we don't take CDs. You know, I've heard all of the excuses. We need to get past the excuses and say, if Fulton County has a 114% registration rate, I think we've got a problem somewhere. I'm begging you guys to fix Fulton County because Fulton County will not fix themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's see. I'm going by my list here. I had Maria.
So,
Let me get a couple lined up. You go
somebody
ahead.
else?
No, you go ahead, but let me get, is Maria Gauldy want to speak? Or Liz Through? Or Dawn Crutchfield? David Terrell? Ralph O'Connor? Okay. All right.
All right, I'm going to keep this crisp. My name's Ware Bush. I've been real involved with election integrity since 2020. And I was at the Blue Ribbon Commission meetings, and at that meeting there were hedgehogs and there were foxes. There were a lot of hedgehogs that knew one thing really well, their precinct. And they could talk about how they had the procedures to make sure that Georgia was free and fair. And then they have the foxes. And the foxes know many things. They go all over and look at the very big picture. What we have in Georgia is a big picture problem. We have a governor who won't do anything. The executive branch has let us down. We have the judiciary branch. Nothing has happened in the courts of any kind of real substance. And then finally, we have the legislature that moves glacially. The problems that were brought up by the great David Cross and the Meckler other case, the only way we're going to get any kind of investigation that matters is to go to the feds. And I'm very pleased with what Cleta Mitchell is doing with her voter bill of rights, what the Trump has suggested with his executive orders, and then what might come down from the feds. But I think the idea of turning over David Cross's stuff to Chris Carr again nothing will come of it. So I'm hopeful that somebody will change the motion to reach out to Harmony Dillon, have her come down and look at Kevin Michael's group information and David Cross's and the rest of the cesspool that is part of 2020. Thank you, James.
Thank you, sir.
And great job, board.
And for the record, would you just state your name?
Maria Gallo, Fulton County. Smooth as silk meeting, y'all, and I hear that this was a last-minute leadership position for Dr. Jan, and you handled it like you've been doing it for 20 years. Totally experienced. After Jason Frazier's stunning revelation that Fulton County shows active voters whose birth dates go back to the 1800s, yes, that means we have voters that are over 200 years old, y'all. And then Patrice Perkin-Hooker's mind-blowing testimony at a Fulton County Board of Commissioners meeting this year, where she answered Commissioner Bridget Thorne's question by saying, no, Fulton County never cleans their voter rolls. It is now crystal clear that Fulton County is non-compliant with the National Voters Registration Act of 1993, and they have been non-compliant for at least 32 years. That's a majority of many of our lives, including at least 8 consecutive federal elections. Fulton County's non-compliance is too egregious to be ignored. This constitutes an immediate referral to the DOJ for those federal elections. We We in Fulton County are tired of Dan Harbaugh and Nadine Williams and Sherry Allen and their predecessors blowing smoke up our butts, feigning ignorance, delivering gobbledygook about Jarvis, gaslighting and feeding us BS with lack of preparation for this meeting. As I watch these SEB proceedings, most of this minutia would go away if, number one, Fulton County was compliant with NVRA of 93. Number two, abolish the Dominion voting machine cases would drop substantially the load that you have on this SEB, the double voting, the Bohemian lady voting for 23 years. And Nadine Williams says there are clean voter rolls every month. Patrice Hooker says it's never been done. Where are the audits? Where's the written proof? Remedy, voter removal program, SEB, which is in the Voting Act of 1993, voter roll compliance plan that needs to be drafted. Sorry.
It's okay.
Good evening, I think. My name is Ralph O'Connor. Since November of 2021, I have been election day poll clerk, data clerk, whatever, and runner. For those of you that don't know, on election day, I don't know about early voting, on election day, 2 poll clerks are assigned to carry what's called the yellow bag, which includes the memory cards from the scanners and the copies of the zero tapes and the closing tapes. So I've done that every election since 2021. I was shocked at what was said about 2020. I know nothing about that. I do know for a fact that for every election at Christ Church Presbyterian on Peachtree, we've had the zero tapes and the closing tapes signed by the manager and the 2 assistants, because one of my jobs at the end of the night, because I can't do heavy lifting, is take those tapes to the front door of the church, and with a colleague, we go with a chain of custody form to a central location and hand over the memory cards and the tapes. So I know at our place, and I assume in other places in Fulton County, that's been going on at least since November of 2021. Regarding Fulton County not cleaning its voter rolls, not only I respectfully disagree with my colleagues here, they not only have been cleaning them, they've been posting the results. If you go to Fulton County Department of Registration and Elections, under prior meetings, there's a list of all the minutes. Below the minutes is operation reports. They list probably a dozen-page operation reports that gets all the nitty-gritty. One section is on voter registration. That includes how many people have been added, how many have been taken off for different reasons. And as the last one I saw was September of this year, Fulton County identified and deleted over 1,100 duplicates, not counting the other ones. The question about why does Fulton County have more than 100% of our eligible voters registered? I can give a couple possible reasons. We've got big colleges in Atlanta. Every year, about a quarter of those kids leave. Most of them, the same problem that Dr. J mentioned, they don't update their address. So it looks like they're still living here, but they've got a job someplace else. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. If there's no other business, we'll recess and adjourn until 9 o'clock tomorrow. Do I have a motion?
Motion to recess.
Motion to recess. Second. All in favor? Aye.